Bret, what do you remember about that night in 2006? I mean, it was a rocking atmosphere. You guys got the dub that night. What do you remember about that Tennessee victory, or the Arkansas victory against Tennessee?
Well, the greatest thing about that night was not only was College Game Day there for the first time, and you get the win, but it was also senior night. So it was a great way to end a career at Arkansas in such a memorable experience that, frankly, hasn't really been done since and wasn't done before with that atmosphere, that on the line, and then watching Darren run the ball like he did. It was phenomenal.
One of the things, it was cold and windy that morning. Everybody was gathered for game day up on Lot 44. That looks a lot different now than it did then, but it was cold and the wind was blowing up around there, and it didn't get a whole lot better for that game that night.
It didn't. I think that's probably why we put the ball in his hands a little bit more, and then he got hot, and then you got to feed him once he gets hot. And yeah, it was cold. It was a great night, though. It was a great night of football. It was football weather, as everybody likes to say. And when you go out there and you can beat a Tennessee team at home and in that atmosphere, it's second to none.
And, Bret, people forget that was y'all's 9th straight win. You had won 8 previous. That was 4th highest in college football that year, and then you get that victory. Now, we know how that season ended, but following that win against Tennessee, how are you guys feeling in that locker room and the rest of the night?
Well, you're partying the best you can. I mean, it's exciting. It's memorable. I heard after that game where there were some people that were like, we actually are good. The truth is real of being able to going to run like that. And so people really started taking us serious, and we started getting the talks of, with everything, from the SEC championship game into national title talks because of how powerful our offense was, and we were winning ball games consistently.
Bret, people would debate, hey, it's harder to get focused after a win. Oh, it's harder to get focused after a loss. From your perspective, you've been on both sides at both the college and professional level. If you're Sam Pittman, what are you telling the guys all throughout the week and prior to the Tennessee game?
I think with wins and losses, you got to let them go at midnight. Now, obviously, the next day you're a little bit happier after a win, and that makes that practice that week easier after a win. But you have to let it go at midnight and just move on to the next game, because a win can take you down if you're riding too high, and the loss can do the same thing, and you don't want to carry it on. So I think Sam's going to get the guys together. I think his whole coaching staff is, they're going to go back, and it's a fundamentals type deal where you start working on, critiquing yourself of every fundamental that you missed and then missed assignments throughout the game, and really hammer in like, hey, we're not as good as you think you are if you go out and make that performance, 2 weeks in a row.
All right, let's rewind and go back to the A&M game. I want to ask you a couple things, particularly with the field goals. Arkansas was 1 of 3, missed a 48 and a 49-yard field goal. One thing that was interesting, the TV had the shot through the uprights that you commonly see, and you didn't get a good look. I'm sure you looked at it closer and probably rewound it and watched it again. Was on the first missed field goal, Sam brought over Lindsey and Reed and had a conversation with the two of them together. What do you think that was about? And did you see something in the snap and hold operation that may have led to that really, really bad miss on that first attempt?
Well, usually whenever, that first attempt, when I first saw it, I was like, man, did that get blocked? And when he brought him over, what happens in that conversation is like, what happened? He wants the players to know exactly what happened. You don't want to hear the answer, I don't know. And so he's trying to figure out, was it the hold? Was it the laces? Was the kicker's plant foot ahead or behind? And, there's all kinds of different elements that go into that, 1.3 seconds. And he wants to make sure that they know what they're doing and they can correct that and go to the sideline. And his kicks looked better throughout the night, but he seemed off. And I don't know, some games, some kickers do that. And what they've got to work on this week is they've got to get that operation smooth and consistent, because we need those points when we're in these football games, when our offense is, we kind of stall midway down the field and you got a chance to make a field goal. We need those points, and that's critical to get wins. And
you wonder if they just made one of the two, how does the strategy change? He made a 34-yard field goal in his third attempt. How automatic or what percentage should a kicker like Reed or a college kicker, where should you be when you're outside of 45 yards? These two he missed were 48 and 49 yards. Those certainly aren't automatic ranges.
It's not for college. It's more, they want you to make it more consistently, 50 and under in the NFL, and now they want you to make them 55 and in. And it's hard. I would say should be around the 80% mark. That's hard to believe if they can even get close to that. it's more likely going to be around the 70%. But a lot of times with these kickers, when they get back and they start, it's like golf. You just want to kind of hit a nice smooth swing, and they try to overpower it, and they've got plenty of leg. You just got to go out there and make sure you hit a good ball, and that's what transitions to guys in the NFL. Is they know their leg's strong enough. They don't go out there and try and overswing the guys that stay long-term in the league. They just go out there and make smooth swing after smooth swing, and the ball, they get good flight, and they're able to control it and make a lot of field goals.
So the harder you swing your driver doesn't mean the ball goes further? Is that not how it works?
It looks good on video and when everybody's putting it on YouTube, but no, it's not.
Same principle, huh? Hit the sweet spot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Brett, speaking
Absolutely. You got to hit the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Brett, speaking of golf, how excited are you for the Masters next week?
Oh, I'm fired up. I really am. I know we talked about this before. I want to see how this course plays at this time of year. We've never got to see it. We always see it in the spring, so it's going to be interesting how the weather plays. Is something going to come through where it makes it a lot colder for these golfers? Or we've had ice storms before. You never know what's going to happen this time of year, so it's going to be exciting and see how these golfers take it and how the course reacts to their play.
Yeah, I want to know how much money Augusta National spent to make azaleas bloom in November, because I'm certain that they have figured out a way to make azaleas bloom in November somehow.
But they put up a lot of heaters, I bet.
Tents and heaters.
A little greenhouse.
Something. Yeah.
And you mentioned heaters. I don't think there's going to be any smoking heaters that are going to be smoked on that golf course, even though there might be a golfer or two that wants to do just that. And I was thinking about this, Brett, when we had you on this morning, obviously paying Green Bay, just the frigid conditions, the coldness aspect, and you were talking about the kicking and stuff. I know that Mason Crosby is one of your good friends, and you mentioned good kickers. He's definitely been one of the best last decade or so. How much more, as we get colder and colder in Fayetteville, and we know how frigid it, and you know better than anyone how frigid it can get on those Saturday nights, how much is that going to impact the decision-making from Sam Pittman to attempt mid to long field goals behind the leg of A.J. Reed?
Well, it actually goes with punting, too. So the whole game plan gets different. As the weather gets colder, the balls get harder, and the balls don't travel as far, and then especially if you throw a little wind in there. So everything is a little bit different on the special team side, where your judgment's kind of they go into it on pregame. That's where they take their number, and they say, the special teams coach goes over to the head coach and says, where's he hitting them from? Where's his maxed out line at? And those numbers adjust depending on the weather. And as we get into these, when we're good, we're playing these, these night games, and it's a little bit cooler at night. And so it's going to be an adjustment that they're going to have to go on the fly. So don't be surprised if, we throw in an offense where everybody's like, why didn't we kick it in the game plan? Because, they've talked about it and they know what's going on. And particularly with the field goal percentage, you don't want them to go out there if they don't think they're going to make it.
Arkansas wasn't able to get to Kellen Mond on Saturday. No sacks, no quarterback hurries. What were you seeing in the protection? Obviously, A&M's got a really good offensive line. So what were you seeing there in Arkansas's inability to pressure Kellen Mond and get to him? And then conversely, what progressions are you seeing out of Arkansas's offensive line? What did you see in the trench play on Saturday?
Well, on defense, we weren't getting to him, and then, like you said, and that's the hard part. When you go into all these games and we've gotten the quarterbacks, we've gotten interceptions. Our defense kind of looked like a new defense. So, we changed our philosophy. Midweek last week we had tried to recreate something after the bye week. So what they've got to get back to is, they've just got to get back to being the bully in the park. They've got to go out there and attack and not play like they're going to screw up. Just go out there and play and attack those gaps to try and get in, because we're going up against another good offensive line this week that they're going to have to get some pressure to help our D-backs. And that's one thing that you can do is when, the coverage sacks and stuff like that, where your D-backs everybody's playing off of each other. And then if you get some pressure in there, your defensive line and linebackers, they can kind of control the running game a little bit better. And that also frees up the defensive backfield. And on the offensive side, we ran the ball better. So obviously our offensive line blocked better. So those are progressions that we can take. And the better you run the ball, the better play action works. And hopefully we can just continue to build off that success. And, Boyd looked good. And we just got to continue to grow with our offensive line. And as they keep running, it's like we did, we talked early in the show about McFadden, they start getting confidence in each other. The running back figures out the hole's going to be there, and the offensive line knows that he's going to hit the hole hard. And it's a back and forth play that they've got to go through.
Bret Goode with us here on the Morning Rush. Bret, when you look at Super Bowl wise and teams you like, I know obviously you have a relationship with your buddy Aaron. They did not make any deals at the trade deadline. I know there are rumors floating around about Will Fuller. Apparently the Texans and the Packers couldn't agree on his value. Does Aaron have enough around him to get to another Super Bowl?
Before last week against the Vikings, I would have said yes. After last week, I'd say no. It's going to be very interesting. They play Thursday night against the 49ers, who ran through them in the NFC Championship game last year, and they gave up 4 touchdowns to Dalvin Cook on Sunday. So until they solidify that on defense, Aaron can't put up 40. And I don't know that, they're down running backs, 2 running backs to COVID, 1 to an ankle injury. So we're going on a running back who had, I think, 10 carries total in his career, and another guy that's on the practice squad right now with 5 carries total in his career. So if you can't run the ball in the cold weather, and you're not going to have a chance. That was one of the greatest things of our Super Bowl run. You look at Starks, we got on a run there at the end of our season where we started running the ball. Well, when you can run it and get a few yards, like I said with Arkansas, it opens up the play-action pass. And when you can open up the play-action pass with Aaron and, Devontae on the outside, and guys, they got to catch the ball. So as of right now, I'd say no. I'd say they're out of it. I think they might make I don't know if they make the NFC Championship game unless they improve. If they come through and they stop San Francisco from running down their throat, I think they'll have a chance, but they've got to get more consistent.
Speaking of championship games, we were discussing this on Monday. Give us a couple of teams you like in each side. Two NFC teams, say 2 AFC teams you like right now to kind of be there at the end and compete to be in the Super Bowl.
Well, I think you got the Chiefs, and you have to have the Steelers because they're off to their best start ever. And then what the Steelers did to Baltimore, I think people have kind of figured out Baltimore as of right now. And on the NFC side, I think New Orleans is up there, and Seattle they're kind of on the edge, and Tampa Bay with Tom, and so it depends on Seattle and Tampa Bay which team's coming out to play, because Tampa Bay comes out hot and they get a bunch of sacks, and the next week it's kind of a dud. So with the addition of Antonio Brown to Tampa Bay, if he can stay just out of the media and stay humbled, I think they've got a chance to make a run because they're set up to be a complete team with all the weapons they have on offense, Mike Evans, and then all the, you got the defensive pass rush, with Sue and Pierre-Paul and everybody back there in the backfield creating plays. So I would go New Orleans and Tampa, which they're coming out of the same division. So one of them's going to win it and one of them's going to be a wild card. Plus, we're adding NFL teams to the playoffs. So it's going to be an interesting year of how that all plays out.
Who plays their best in November and December? That's what's going to count. Bret Goode's with us every Wednesday on the Morning Rush, former Razorback, Super Bowl champion with the Green Bay Packers. Bret, you're now part of the team at Henderson Phillips Employer Solutions. Tell everybody what they can expect when they call you at 651-2292.
Well, I'm going to pick up the phone. You're not going to have to dial 0 or anything like that. It's my direct cell phone. And, we're going to give you a family-oriented plan that fits right for you on employee benefits, property and casualty, self-health. We do, I can do your house, I can do your auto. So we have a very big range of things we can do. We're working on a 401k for a fella, and we can do payroll. So we can do everything on the independent side. We have multiple carriers, and we'd love to have the opportunity to work with you.
Plus, you mentioned auto, life insurance, anything personal, too, that someone might need away from a business as well.
Absolutely. We'd love to take your house. If you got even if you want just a personal umbrella policy, I can write that. But that way we're in a Sue-happy world, so you got to make sure that you're protected.
There you go. 479-651-2292 for Bret with with Henderson Phillips Employer Solutions. That's 651-2292. All right, have a good week, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one. Go Hogs.